When I was 11, I picked stocks. I had the whole wrong idea. I was interested in watching stocks, and I thought stocks were things that went up and down, and I charted them. I read books on technical analysis. I read Edwards and McGee. I think that was the classic then, hundreds and hundreds of pages. And I read that whole thing over and over again. I read everything.
With a net worth of $100 billion, Warren Buffett's got the playbook of wealth and wisdom. In this video, Buffett drops money pits you should steer clear of.
I thought the first 8 years, I thought the important thing was to predict what a stock would do and predict the stock market. And then I read Ben Graham, when I was 19 or 20, and I realized that I was doing it exactly the wrong way, but it didn't hurt that I had that background and everything. And I rejiggered my mind, and when I read the book, The Intelligent Investor, and from that point, I never bought another stock. I bought businesses that happened to be publicly traded, but I became an owner of a business, and I did not care whether a stock went up or down the next day or the next week or the next month or the next year, and I didn't have any idea what it would do. I didn't know what the stock market would do, but I knew businesses.
Play smart with your money, not risky. Patience is the name of the game. Long term is the goal. Those quick buys, they're slow burns on the wallet. The result? High interest debt. They add up faster than you think. It's a black hole you want to avoid.
We've both had a fair amount of experience in real estate, and Charlie made his early money in real estate. The second point is the more important point. Real estate is not a commodity, but I think it tends to be more accurately priced, particularly developed real estate, more accurately priced most of the time. Now, during the RTC period, when you had huge amounts of transactions and you had an owner that didn't want to be an owner in a very big way, and they didn't know what the hell they owned and all of that sort of thing. I mean, you had a lot of mispricing then, and I know a few people in this room that made a lot of money off of that. But under most conditions, it's hard to find real estate that's really mispriced. I mean, when I look at the transactions that REITs engage in currently, and you get a lot of information on that.
With a knack for turning pennies into fortune, Buffett has one tip: knowledge. Status symbol purchases might impress others, but they won't pad your wallet. It only drains it. Knowledge is invaluable. Invest in yourself. The cost of a thing isn't just the price tag, it's the lost opportunities it could have brought.
I'm a bright guy who's terribly interested in what he does. I've spent a lifetime doing it, and I've surrounded myself with people that bring out the best in me. And you don't need to be a genius in what I do. That's the good thing about it. If I went into physics and a whole lot of other subjects, I'd be an also-ran. But I am in a game that you probably need 120 points of IQ, But 170 doesn't do any better than 120. It may do worse, probably do worse, but you don't really need brains.
What do you need?
You need the right orientation. 90% of the people, I'm pulling a figure out of the air, but 90% of the people that buy stocks don't think of them the right way. They think about something that they hope goes up next week. And they think about the market as something they hope goes up. And if it's down, they feel worse. I feel better.
And you think about?
I think about what the company's going to be worth 10 or 20 years from now. And I hope it goes down when I buy it, because I'll buy more. I try to keep my competitive spirit in a game where I can win. I do know this. When I want to do something, I always want to do it big. I put my whole net worth in City Service Preferred, $114.75. And I've never, since that day, March 11th, 1942, I have never had less than 80% of my money in American business. You can call them stocks.
Or equities.
But I see them as American business. I've owned a piece of American business, at least 80% at all times. I don't want to own anything else. I want to own a home and things my family wants and all that. But owning 5 homes doesn't mean anything to me, because I can be happy in one home, and there's a certain amount of things that go wrong with everything. And if I got 2 homes, I know I've got more problems and I don't have more happiness.
What brings you the happiness?
What makes me happiest is what I'm doing. I enjoy 2 things about it. One, I know I'll win over time. That doesn't mean I'll beat everybody else or anything like that. But I'm in a game that's very, very, very easy if you have the right lessons in your mind about what you're buying. I'm not buying stocks. I'm buying pieces of overwhelmingly American business. And I'm happy when I'm doing it. I'm happier when stocks are going down because I can buy more of them with the same amount of money. I'd be happy if I was a farmer. I'd want farmland to go down so I could buy more acreage. It just makes sense. I'll tell you the second thing I really like. I like being trusted by people. I would rather do what I do with partners than do it sitting in a room myself, even though I might make more money that way. Let's pretend there is no stock market. Let's say I had to buy these privately, like you buy a farm privately, like you buy an apartment house privately. They're investments. So you're looking to say, what can I do with money I've saved to put it away so I feel good about getting it back later under any circumstances, but not necessarily on a given moment. But if I have a farm, it's going to take me a while. But people would be so much better if they actually didn't have a stock market in terms of buying businesses. United States economy, and it's very easy to look at the statistics on it. I mean, more people, a greater percentage of the American population is wealthy now or having more income now than they've ever had. And if you look at whether Bank of America can give you their average deposit, I mean, you just look at the wealth. That doesn't mean everybody's wealthy, but it does mean relative to any other period of time. I mean, people have more money now. They get mortgages at lower rates than they've ever gotten. So if they want to buy a house or something, right today, you live in an environment where the bottom 2% in terms of income in the United States, the bottom 5%, and for sure the top 1%, all live better than John D. Rockefeller was living when I was 6 years old. John D. Rockefeller was the richest man in the world. And today, you can get better medicine, better education, better entertainment, better transportation. You can do everything better than he could. It's astounding. That's in my lifetime. If you wanted to watch a football game, he still had to go there. And I can sit there with this big screen, and they keep showing me the replay, so that and explaining to me what happened and everything. And maybe everybody doesn't have a screen as big as mine, but damn near everybody has a screen or an iPhone or a computer or access to one. And they have access. When I was born, the dentist didn't use Novocaine. I mean,
So there has been progress, obviously.
Oh,
And nowhere more than in the United States.
there's no country that's done what our country's done. If you go back 3 of my lifetimes, you're looking at less than 1% of the world's population, closer to half of 1%, are sitting in this land. They don't work harder than people in all the rest of the world. I mean, in terms of hours of unpleasant labor, everybody's got hours of unpleasant labor in those days practically. They don't come laden with gold and, they are half of 1%. And they work the same hours, they got the same IQs. They may be a little self-selected in terms of enterprise, in terms of going across oceans and things. And fast forward a couple of lifetimes, and they've got 20% plus of all the bounty in the world.
They're very similar, but it's a competitive world, and they all know about what a Class A office building in Chicago or wherever it may be is going to produce. At least they may all be wrong, as it turns out, because of some unusual events, but it's hard to argue with the current conventional wisdom most of the time in the real estate world. But occasionally there have been some, there could be big opportunities in the field, but if they exist, it will certainly be because there'll be a lot of chaos in real estate financing for one reason or another. We've done some real estate financing, and you have to have the money shut off to quite a degree, probably to get any big mispricing across the board. Charlie?
Yeah, we don't have any competitive advantage over experienced real estate investors in the field, and we wouldn't have if we were operating with our own money as a partnership. And if you operate as a corporation such as ours, which is taxable under Chapter C of the Internal Revenue Code, you've got a whole layer of corporate taxes between the real estate income and the use of the income by the people who own the real estate. So by its nature, real estate tends to be a very lousy investment for people who are taxed under subchapter C of the code relating to corporations. So the combination of having it generally a lousy activity for people with our tax structure and having no special competence in the field means that we spend almost no time thinking about anything in real estate, and then such real estate as we've actually done, like holding surplus real estate and trying to sell it off, I'd say we have a poor record at.
Yeah, C corps really it doesn't make any sense. I mean, I know there are C corps around that are in real estate, but there are other structures that are more attractive. There really aren't other structures. I mean, Lloyd's is an attempt at it to some degree, but there aren't other structures that work well for big insurance companies. Or, I mean, you can't have a Walmart very well that does not exist in a C corp. So they are not subject to S corp or partnership competition that determines the returns on capital in the discount store field. But if you're competing with equivalent of S corps, REITs, or partnerships or individuals, you've just got an economic disadvantage as a C corp, which is, for those of you who don't love reading the Internal Revenue Code, is just a standard vanilla corporation that you think of, all of the Dow Jones companies, all of the S&P companies, and so on. And as Charlie says, it's unlikely that the disadvantage of our structure, combined with the competitive nature of people with better structures buying those kinds of assets, will ever lead to anything really interesting. Although I would say that we missed the boat to some extent during the RTC days. I mean, it was a sufficiently inefficient market at that time, and there was a lack of financing that we could have made a lot of money if we had been geared up for it at that time. We actually had a few transactions that were pretty interesting, but nothing that was significant in relation to our total capital.
We thought significantly about buying the Irvine Corporation when it became available. So that's the only big one I can remember that we seriously thought about.
Yeah, that was in 1977 or so.
Way back.
Yeah, Mobil Oil was interested in, Don Brent ended up putting together a group for it. But, that kind of thing could conceivably happen, but it's unlikely.